This is arguably the most outstanding line I have ever read from any of the ulama on salah. He said, now when you come to salah, have any of you looked at the water which you used to pray? Now listen to what he says. He says, when you lift the water for wudu, just stop there and look at it. Just stop and look at the water. He says, do you see how clear the water is? Now you should become that clear with Allah in your life. Water is such a clear liquid. He looks at it and he says, look at the Muslim. He'll come and pick up that water. He could see how clear it is. Yet he then finishes his prayer and continues going against the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, when you look at that water, just keep looking at it. And just look how clear it is, and then ask yourself, if the water which I use for salah is so clear, why am I not clear in my behavior with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And he says, but don't stop there. Everything in this world began from water, as the Quran says. So he says, in the same way everything began with water, look at that water and say, now this is the mark of a new beginning between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he says, look at the water again. Water is the spring of God's mercy. Know that when you are doing wudu, you are entering God's mercy. Then he says, look at the water again. All of these actions, he's taking you higher, and you haven't even started praying. He said, look at the water again. Do you remember any hadiths of Rasulullah on water? Don't you remember the hadith when Rasulullah says, the believer is like water. He purifies all those who surround him. Now when you look at water, say, I want to begin to purify those friends of mine who surround me. Look at those lines. Khomeini just discussing water. Then he says, look at that water which is in front of you. Do you see how it's going to purify the body parts? Now say, I'm going to begin to purify my heart after this. There's no point me washing my body parts if I have a heart of envy, or a heart of jealousy, or a heart of arrogance, or I have a heart of rudeness. When you look at that water, say, oh water, in the same way you're purifying my body, I'm gonna start purifying my heart. He said, now when you've reflected on the water you're using, tell me where you are in your salah. Then he says, go to Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen would pick up that water. He'd know it's the spring of life. He'd know how clear it is, so he'd be that clear with Allah as well. He'd know that it's the spring of mercy, so he'd be the mercy for Allah's creation. He'd say, then Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would take that water. When he washes his face with it, he'd say, Ya Allah, let Noor shine on this face on the day of judgment. Then he says, when he put water on his right hand, he said, Ya Allah, let me be of the people of the right hand on the day of judgment. Then when he took the water and he put it in his left hand, he said, Ya Allah, do not let me be of the people of the left hand on the day of judgment. Then when he put his wiping of the head, he'd say, Ya Allah, allow this head to bow down to you on the day of judgment. Then he says, look at Amir al-Mu'mineen. When he came and he wiped his feet, he would say, Ya Allah, on a day when all the feet are slipping, let my feet not slip on the day of judgment.
गुनाहों की आदत छुड़ा मेरे मौला, गुनाहों की आदत छुड़ा मेरे मौला, मुझे नेक इंसान बना मेरे मौला, मुझे नेक इंसान बना मेरे मौला। जो तुझको, जो तेरे नबी को पसंद है, जो तुझको, जो तेरे नबी को पसंद है, مجھے ایسا بندہ بنا میرے مولا، مجھے ایسا بندہ بنا میرے مولا، مجھے نیک انسان میرے مولا۔ تو مسجود میرا، میں ساجد ہوں تیرا، تو مسجود میرا، میں ساجد ہوں تیرا، تو مالک میں بندہ تیرا میرے مولا، تو مالک میں بندہ تیرا میرے مولا، مجھے نیک انسان بنا میرے